Yeah, and not only that, but in the 90s, reptile care in general was very lacking, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They would all say, yeah, you could just totally put that bearded dragon in a 20-gallon long fish tank for the rest of its life, which is completely asinine.
Yeah. It's sad. Like I feel even though I didn't know any better and that's all I knew at the time. When I look
Mhm.
back at pictures of me when I was a little kid with my iguana tank behind me, it's like it's a full grown iguana in like a little, I don't know if it was a 40-gallon or something, and then had one branch in there. And back then I was like, oh, this is perfect. But yeah, that's nowhere near what it should be.
Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of the Terrarium Talk podcast. I'm your host, Terrence Hay, and today we're going to be talking to Tommy Maxwell of Tommy's Reptiles. Tommy is a former Navy rescue swimmer. He currently works in the field of criminal justice, and he is a lifelong reptile enthusiast. And he also has aspirations of working on conservation projects to protect wildlife from human encroachment. All right, so today we have Tommy Maxwell. Welcome, Tommy. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
So today I wanted to talk about a few things. Number one, the frilled dragons. In your experience, what does it take to be successful with the species? Like what kind of habitat are they in? What kind of things do you think about when you're taking care of them or creating a plan to take care of them? Diet, so on and so forth.
Gotcha. So the first thing on Frilled Dragons that I kind of want to talk about is a lot of people always chime in on social media platforms and they say, "Oh, this is for advanced keepers only.
Mm.
This is for people who have like 15 years experience or whatever." But I find that not to be the case. I've been keeping reptiles since I was like 7 years old. I'm almost 37, and I would say this is as long as you have its habitat good to go. You have the temperature. They're mainly from Australia, so they're going to want a warm climate. They need UVB and all that, and they're arboreal, so they're going to want to have some vertical climbs because in the wild they kind of stay on vertical. They stay vertical on trees like all the time. So you want to set it up like that. But if you get them in the perfect setup with the right temperature, right amount of humidity, right diet, they're probably one of the easiest reptiles that I've ever had to take care of. They're primarily insectivorous, but in the wild they could eat like they'll eat little lizards and frogs and stuff. I occasionally feed my adults like frozen thawed mice and stuff like that, but that's like once a month.
It's interesting you bring up the vertical trees and branches and stuff in the enclosure because I'd say any documentary I've ever seen on frilled dragons in Australia, they're always every time they find it, it's on a tree vertical. I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever seen them on the ground unless they're like put on the ground. So that's interesting you say that. I did notice that in a couple of your posts where it showcases their enclosure is that I did notice the vertical trees, which I thought that was a pretty interesting
Yeah.
setup.
Yeah, I got the idea from like the Discovery Channel shows where you see the frilled dragons, and then
Yeah.
what I do when I because I just started getting the frilled dragons like 4 years ago, and I didn't even know you could have them as a pet, and then I was in a pet shop, and I was like, no way, I didn't think it was
Yeah.
legal, so I was like, I gotta set these guys up. So first thing I did was go on YouTube and YouTube some Australian guys, and they're really good, as you probably know, they're really good at keeping reptiles. I'd say they're top tier, like I would say better than most American reptile keepers. Like they have awesome enclosures, big enclosures, but I learned from them also. All of their frill dragon enclosures were vertical climbs, like, and they have like 20 options, like climbing options. I need to up my game.
Yeah, and I mean, out of all the Australian reptiles, I feel like the frilled dragon is probably the most iconic in my
Yeah.
opinion. I mean, there's not another reptile like it, I don't think, with the excess skin there on the fold.
Yeah.
Of course, there is the Indonesian, but which I think are more common in the trade, I believe, than the
Yep. They're
Australians.
from what I've read, I think all frilled dragons originate out of Australia, and
Mhm.
somehow they branched off and got into Indonesia, and then after being there for so long, they kind of they adapted to be smaller for some reason, and their colors are like a little more, I would say, like drab.
Mhm.
And then some branched off to like Papua New Guinea or whatever. But yeah, but on the there's a lizard that kind of doesn't look like a frilled dragon, but it has like you might have seen it. It
Oh, it
opens
like
its mouth
opens
and
up.
yeah, the cheeks have like a baby little frill thing coming out. I don't know what that is, but that's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, I feel like they're called some kind of like toad lizard. I forget the name though.
Yeah.
But but yeah, that's really cool. And I know you're working on I know you have a couple for like a breeding project. How's that going so far?
Um, I much so in the past, I got some box turtles, and I didn't even plan to breed any of them. And then one day I went out and they were mating, and then for the whole summer, every couple of weeks, they're laying eggs, and I was like, oh man, this is crazy. So I put them in the incubator. I ended up hatching over 100 box turtles and stuff, and then
Wow.
so I was like, oh, it's going to be easier to breed lizards. If turtles are that easy, lizards have to be probably even
Uh,
easier. And
yeah.
I have a male and female Indonesian frill dragon housed together right now, and the female seems to be really into mating, but the male is like not into it for some reason. But last night, actually, I went out to check, and the male was on top of her, but I didn't see their tails like locked up. So I'm hoping in the future that they'll eventually give me some eggs, and then I'll also put that same Indonesian female with my other male, half Australian, half New Guinea frill dragon. No luck with them either. So I have a couple other females that are too small to breed, but within the next year, 2 years, I hope to have like a frill dragon factory down here.
Oh, I'm excited, man, because I there's been a couple times where I've been at like local reptile shows and stuff, and I see one and I'm like, no, I gotta wait until Tommy breeds his.
Yeah,
I gotta get him from Tommy. So I've been holding out. So that's good to know. It'll maybe be another year or two
yeah,
until you get some headway in that. I noticed you in one of your recent posts you did build a outdoor enclosure. Now from what I've learned is once these lizards get into like natural sunlight rather than like an indoor setup,
yeah.
a lot of times they seem to go kind of crazy because they see you differently with a different spectrum of light.
Oh yeah.
Um, have you noticed that at all with the frillies? Because they seem to be okay, but you also
Oh
seem to take your guys out all the time too, so they might just get used to it.
yeah. Oh my gosh, it's a night and day difference. Like all of the frill dragon. I mean, that outdoor enclosure right now, I don't keep them in all the time.
Mm,
Just like when I'm home, I bring them out to get some natural sunlight and stuff. But when I open their enclosures inside, they're calm. I could reach my hand in and pet them and stuff. But when I bring them outside, just like you said, they must think I'm something else or someone else. So that's why everyone's like, "Oh, you must be like being mean to your frill dragons for them to frill up all the time. That means they're stressed." No,
mm.
I'm just bringing them outside, get some natural sunlight. I leave them out there. I try to leave them out for a couple hours at least, and then when I go pick them up, that's the best time to film them because that's when they're like, "Oh, what's this? What is this thing?" And then I put them back in the enclosure. Hour later, I go to feed them. They eat right out of my hand. I can pet them and all that. It's just, yeah, like you said, I think they think that I'm something else when I'm outside.
Yeah, and I mean I've seen your videos. They obviously have no fear of you whatsoever. I
Yeah,
think that's just more of like a reflex for anything approaching them at all, really.
yeah.
Uh,
It's actually pretty cool because sometimes when I bring them out in the yard and I set up little branches for them outside the enclosure too, just to let them get more direct sunlight. But once in a while, a bird will fly over, and then you could see them react to it. Like they'll get real close to the tree and like hug it, and like
mhm.
they're really good at camouflage.
Oh, and I'm sure in Australia, I'm sure there's larger birds that prey on
Oh yeah,
them, or at least the smaller ones. Um, Now, as moving on to Walter, uh, one of my favorite animals that you have. As you know, I've recently gotten into monitors myself, and I'm
yeah.
just
I'm glad you did.
absolutely mind blown.
Yeah,
Um, it's like with fish. It's I know this is kind of a weird analogy, but the fish that interested me are the ones where like their eyes actually move around, and you can tell that they're processing something. Like
yep,
there's thinking going on compared to the fish that just like stare out in opposite directions.
yep,
The eyes don't move. Like German blue rams or cichlids, there's something that shows some kind of intelligence. There's something going on in that brain, which is how I feel about monitors in comparison with like tortoises, for example. Not to
yeah.
say tortoises aren't smart, but as far as intelligence, monitors definitely are a step above for sure. Now, I'd like to ask what your experience with Walter was, like especially when you first got him. What steps did you take? Just what your experience was as a whole.
Okay. So I have only had one monitor in my entire life before that, and I've been keeping reptiles for like almost 30 years or whatever.
Mm.
And it was a Savannah monitor. I got it when I was in like high school. I only had it for like 6 months, and then my friend really wanted it, and I don't know why. I was like, here, you could have it, and he took it over and stuff. But I since then I've always wanted another monitor. So you know how it is being like a reptile freak.
Yeah.
Once you get a thought, like I was just sitting in my house one day, and I'm like, I love my frilled dragons, I love all my reptiles, but I was like, I want a monitor now. And then I got obsessed. I went down the rabbit hole. I was looking up every type of monitor, like all the different pet monitors you can have.
Mm.
Um, and then I was trying to find a monitor that's not known for being more timid and not as aggressive as like say I don't know. They say like blue-tailed monitors are pretty crazy, but I
They're
found a Quince.
Niles.
Yeah, Niles,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what I should have went for. But I found a Quince monitor. I was like, "What's this thing?" I was like, It looks awesome." And then I started reading about that. Did a bunch of research, um, and then I went on YouTube like I always do, and then found everybody. I probably watched every Quince monitor video that's ever been created, and I learned a little bit about their husbandry, and then once I felt like I was ready, I got him from Underground Reptiles, which had a bad reputation, but I got him, and he was in great health, and so it was fun for me to get him as a little baby because then I knew I can work with him and get him to trust me,
Mm.
and just like you did with yours, I started off just opening the enclosure, like cleaning the water dish, letting him see me and get used to me, and then I would start trying to hand feed him. Eventually, he'd eat out of my hand, and then I'll start putting like the bugs on my arm, have him jump on my arm, and then after that, eventually, I feel like he's very comfortable with me. And yeah, like you said, I mean, I love my frilled dragons; they're awesome, but I feel like they're more like prehistoric. They just like I gotta survive, I gotta eat, and I gotta go in the sun. With Walter, you can tell there's all kinds of thoughts going on.
Mm.
And but he is similar. When I bring him outside, he is also like doesn't recognize me, or it takes him a little longer to recognize me. Um, but there has been a couple times where I had him on that little table that I feed him on sometimes, and a
Mm.
bird flew over and he ran and jumped on me. Like I felt like he knew, oh, this guy will keep me safe. I,
Yeah, that's
I hope so
safety.
at least. But yeah, but he jumped right on me, and then he stayed on me. Then he like hugs his body like close to mine to hide. I was like, that's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and it's speaking of underground reptiles. It's funny that you mentioned that. Sorry, just a quick tidbit, but I actually grew up in Boca Raton, and they had, I don't know if it's still there, but they had an underground reptiles in Deerfield Beach that I used to go to all the time as a kid. They had all these crazy things. That's kind of what got me into reptiles, actually. Um, Growing up, I never got any, just because like it was just hard to get pets in general.
Yeah.
But uh, I didn't start actually getting reptiles until I'm like an adult and I have adult
Yeah.
money.
There's this Australian channel I follow, and he's like the same as you, and he always liked reptiles, thought they were cool, but he didn't start getting them until he became an adult. And it's
Mm.
hard for me to, because when I was a little kid, I was so upset. I mean, I'm sure you might have been too, but I was so obsessed. I would nag my mom, please, come on, let me get this iguana, please, let me get this iguana. And then eventually got my first one, and then I would just nag him and nag him, and then it got to the point where like you want a reptile, go make your own money. And I would go around. I lived up in Connecticut, so I would shovel people's driveway. One time I wanted an Asian box turtle,
Mm.
and I was like, I'm going to shovel as many driveways as it takes, get all the snow, take the snow out of the driveway until I have enough money. And I spent the whole entire day shoveling driveways until I got like exactly the right amount of money, and then I went to the pet shop and got them. And I was like that, you know.
Hey man, that's just like
But
100% determination right there.
what about when you were a kid though? Did you like them? Like did you have an affinity for them?
Oh yeah, no, I actually had my best friend Eric and I would actually he lived off a canal, and even in Boca where it's like very developed, there's still those canals where it's like little pockets of wildlife
Yeah,
where it's not quite developed yet. And we would actually catch iguanas all the time, go fishing with a cast net.
yeah,
Sometimes we'd come across like a little baby gator or something like that, but nothing too crazy. Um, or in my yard when I'm doing yard work for my dad, pulling some weeds, we'd find like a little ringneck snake or garter snake. Um, but I never was able to actually keep any of them. So,
Yeah.
uh, but luckily now with the setup I have now, it's a lot easier, and I can actually focus on that and give them the best care I could possibly give them.
Yeah.
So,
I, I will say, when I was a little kid, I loved having a couple tanks in my room, but it's definitely more fun when you're an adult and you could buy whatever you want. Because when I
yeah,
had the little tanks, I had like a basic little tank, a little light on top. And now if I'm like, I can just go buy, save up my money, go buy whatever I want, no questions asked, and more fun because you could like, the setups you have behind you, they're
oh
way better
yeah,
than anything I could ever imagine when I was a little kid.
yeah, and not only that, but in the '90s, reptile care in general was very lacking, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They would all say, yeah, you could just totally put that bearded dragon in a 20-gallon long fish tank for the rest of its life, which is completely asinine.
Yeah. It's sad. Like I feel, even though I didn't know any better, and that's all I knew at the time. When I look
Mhm.
back at pictures of me when I was a little kid with my iguana tank behind me, it's like it's a full grown iguana in like a little, I don't know if it was a 40-gallon or something, and then had one branch in there. And back then I was like, oh, this is perfect, but yeah, that's nowhere near what it should be.
Yeah, and and taking that into consideration, it's kind of mind blowing to think what the reptile hobby is going to be like in another like 10 years.
Yeah.
What steps are we going to be taking to improve things further, make things more natural? Like maybe someone will come up with a lighting system that kind of goes across the cage and mimics the whole sun, like movement across the
Yeah.
sky or something like I don't know, something crazy like that.
Man, that's a great idea. You
You
should
know,
patent that. That's a solid idea.
maybe just to make things like even closer to nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than just some bulb sitting stationary and just turning
Yeah.
on and off. Um, so with Walter, I did want to add, how big do these guys get? Because I don't know a lot about them. Because the little research I did, I found that they were actually his species of Varanus melanus was actually unknown to science until like 1997, which is
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
Yeah, well, I've read like so many different things. Like I've read one article I read said that they can get 3.5 feet, and then another one said they can get 4.5 to 5 feet long. And I've seen a video of this kid on YouTube, and
Mm.
his is has to be 5 feet. That thing's huge. He has to wear like a giant protective glove that like covers his whole arm,
Mhm.
and you could tell he's a petrified of his own monitor because I mean I understand why people wear gloves and stuff, but you could tell he didn't trust his enough. Like I feel like when Walter's full grown, he's gonna be cool. I'm gonna have him climb on my arm. He's not gonna be scratching me up,
Mhm.
And yeah, but I think I want to say I believe 4.5 feet. Especially I'm in a group chat and we call it the Quince crew because there's two other guys that have Quince monitors, and I think they also said like 4.5 feet. So
Wow, that's
yeah.
going to be an impressive lizard. I'm sure like it's going to be 50% tail, but
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Probably even more than that. It's that his tail is way longer because I never thought about that. And like sometimes I'll like stretch him out, see how his tail is like super long, and it's prehensile, so it wraps around my arm and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned the sleeves too, because I actually recently got these Kevlar sleeves
Yeah.
for handling Cyrax. I have yet to wear them because I feel like kind of a wuss wearing them, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Even though I shouldn't, but
Yeah.
um,
I'm kind of the same way, and I say I'm not going to wear them now, but when Walter's 5 feet and his nails are
yeah,
like eagle talons, I'll probably change my mind.
that's my exact thought process too. While he's
Yeah.
still small, I'll be ballsy with it and just kind of do it on my bare skin. But as he gets older, I'll definitely have to wear something like that. Otherwise, he'll cut me right
Yeah.
open.
Let me ask you, did you name Cyrax after the character in Mortal Kombat, or is that a different character that I don't know about?
No, I do love Mortal Kombat. It's funny that you say that because that didn't even like occur to me when I was naming him. I actually named him after one of the dragons in House of the Dragon. I'm a big Game of Thrones fan,
Gotcha.
and I was gonna go with what's that one? Caraxes, but I felt like it was maybe too exotic. You know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
like Cyrax. It's nice. It's nice and short, and it's a
Yeah, it's
cool sounding name.
yeah, nice and short, and it'll fit nicely on his harness when I get him a harness to walk him.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like 12 letters long.
Yeah.
So it'll be a little easier. Um, Now, I do know you keep other reptiles. I know you got box turtles. Pretty sure you got dart frogs. Is there anything else that you have?
Let's see. I'll try to go through the list in my head. So it's kind of made me angry because I planned on breeding diamondback terrapins,
Oh yeah.
and I wanted to do it for a couple different reasons. But one of the main reasons was, and so in New Jersey, I don't know if you've heard about this, but they have like breeding projects where captive breeders can breed diamondback terrapins, and then like get like 100 of them, and then get them involved in release programs. So they raise them up till their shells are hard, and then they release them into the wild to increase their numbers in the wild. And Florida doesn't do anything like that, but I still wanted to breed them. And right when I moved down here, they said, nope, no more breeding diamondback terrapins, and you're only allowed to have two per household. So, and I had to register them right when I got here. So I have two diamondback terrapins. I have two box turtles. I thought they were Eastern box turtles, but my friend says he thinks they're like a hybrid of Eastern and three-toed box turtles. So I have two
Okay.
terrapins, two box turtles, and then I have two Mississippi map turtles, one Belize slider. I have five poison dart frogs, the five frill dragons, Walter. Do I have anything else? Oh yeah, my Brazilian rainbow boa is my only snake, and yeah, that's pretty much all. I think that's all I have.
Yeah, that rainbow boa is a real beauty. That's if I was to get a snake, that would definitely be the species I would choose. Just
Yeah,
because they're so striking and like you can't look at that and not smile.
yeah.
You know?
Like it's the best right after they shed, and then you turn their light on, and then you're like, I can't believe this thing is from the wild.
Yeah.
It looks like a magical creature.
Yeah. And do you know what sex the boa is at this point, or is there an educated
Um,
guess?
I paid so the breeder that I got him from. I can't remember his name, but he somehow I don't know if he probed them or not, but I wanted a male because I don't know if I want to breed snakes at all, but
Mm,
I wanted the smaller of the two, and I think male rainbow boas maybe get 4.5 feet or something, and then females get a little longer.
mm,
So he's supposed to be male, and the guy told me he's male, but half the time I get a reptile from a breeder, they say, oh, he's male. And, like my first terrapin I ever got, I was like, I want a male terrapin because they say smaller. He's like, oh
mm.
yeah, definitely male. I temperature. What's it called? When you incubate the eggs at a certain temperature, they make males. I forgot what that's called, but he's
Oh,
like, it's definitely
uh, uh, temperature dependent sexing or something like that.
yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
yeah. And he said, yeah, definitely a male, definitely a male. And then that terrapin is like, because male diamondback terrapins usually only get 5 inches, and then it's like 5 inches, 6 inches, 7 inches, 8 inches. Now it's like 11 inches. I'm like, what the heck?
And man, she's a gorgeous turtle though.
Thanks.
I'm pretty sure she's even been on the reptile report as well a few times, I
Yeah.
think.
Yep.
Um, Now I gotta ask, I mean, everybody's got their bucket list reptiles. Is there any in particular that you'd like to get at some point, even as crazy as it sounds, just at some point before you become an old man?
Oh yeah, I've been trying to convince my wife for years, but I love crocodilians, but I'm not crazy enough to. I'm not like those crazy guys who get like pet Nile crocodiles. I don't want anything like that, but I would love to have like I think it's pronounced Cuvier's Dwarf Cayman.
Yes.
I would love to have one of those, and especially since you live in Florida also, but a nice outdoor walk-in enclosure, kind of like what Kenan has for his Blinky for his lizard, but
Hmm.
just for a caiman, maybe two, and then just be able to walk in there, throw some chicken legs in there, and have like
Yeah,
all the
that
nice plants and stuff. That would be a dream, and that's as far as I want to go with like crazy reptiles. I'm not that
mm,
much of a crazy reptile guy.
okay.
I like to stay safe, and I want to keep all my fingers, and you know,
Hey, that's what's important at the end of the day.
yeah,
There's a lot of unfortunately there's a lot of keepers out there that try to sensationalize bites and the dangerous situations.
yeah,
I'm not going to name any. I think we all know who I'm probably talking about, but
yeah,
uh, it's just it could be very irresponsible to do that because it kind of paints reptiles in a bad light, and the people that are already uncomfortable with reptiles get even more uncomfortable with them,
yeah,
which is bad for the hobby in general. But
yeah. I totally agree with that. It kind of makes me mad because then all the like Florida Fish and Wildlife sees all that footage and they're like, look at these guys, they're
Yeah.
doing all kinds of dangerous stuff. We gotta, prohibit this species and that species. It's
Yeah.
quite annoying.
Yeah. They're literally just handing them ammunition. But now as far as reptile content creation, like I said in the beginning of the podcast here, what you've done is extremely impressive. Um,
Thanks.
every time I look at your profile, my eyes bug out again and again and again because every time I look at your profile, that number is dramatically higher than the last time I saw it.
Yeah, appreciate
Um,
that.
are there any tips you would have for someone getting into reptile content creation, or anything that you wish you knew earlier?
Yeah, I would say, especially so I've been trying to do YouTube, and that's a uphill battle. I'm trying my best. I hope to get a little better with every video and stuff. But I
Mm,
actually, my undergrad degree, I actually went for this film school. So I learned how to make films and stuff. So the main piece of advice I would give for especially short form content creators is, like, for instance, let's talk about a reptile video. So if I have Walter and I'm feeding him something, and then he jumps up to bite what I'm feeding him. So the best part of the video is when he's jumping up and chomping his teeth onto the food I'm giving him, and that's
mhm,
what people are like. Wow, that's cool. And then you take a song that's a really catchy song, or just a really cool song, and then at the best part of the song, like the climax of the song, put at the climax of the video. So both of those happen at the same time, and that like sucks people in. And I haven't been doing that as much. I used to try to do it every video,
mhm.
but every time I've done that, especially like a few months ago, 6 months ago, it kept hitting. It just like works super well. And then I'd also say another important piece of advice is, when you're making a video, cut out all the crap that is boring. That is, picture yourself being somebody who's not interested in a reptile. Cut
Mhm,
out all the boring fluff. Just get to the point right away as quick as possible. Like when I first started, because I wasn't even gonna ever do reptile content,
mhm.
but my whole life I've been taking pictures and videos of reptiles. And then my wife one day was like, make a reptile TikTok. You're always taking pictures of them. And I didn't know what TikTok was. And then I saw TikTok. I kind of learned what they're doing. I just watched a bunch of TikTok videos. I'm like, oh, I'm going to try to incorporate that. But yeah, I mean, getting to the point, because my first videos were like 30 seconds, like my shorts, and that's a little
Mhm.
too long for a short. So I try to keep it like 15 seconds and below if I can. Once in a while, I'll go a little higher, but yeah, like getting to the point and having the best part of the video sync up with the best part of a song, and that will often do well.
Yeah, that's a good point because as when you're just a random person kind of going through your feed, um, you've really only got 3 to 4 seconds of max to really capture that person's attention. Otherwise, they're just going to move on to the next video.
Yep.
So if you have a lot of buildup of, like what you said, like the stuff that people aren't going to, all the fluff, people that aren't going to really be super interested in, you don't want to have 30 seconds of that at the beginning.
Yep.
Otherwise, that
And
video is not going to take off.
yeah,
It's
and
got to
like
really grab their attention like immediately.
and a big part that I hate doing, but I do sometimes, is a little bit of clickbait. But in my opinion, clickbait is okay if you back it up. So a lot of times because most of the times I do clickbait videos, it's for
Mhm,
people who have never seen my channel before or my content. It's for new eyes, because I know
mhm,
people who like my videos are going to watch them, because they like reptiles. So
mhm.
I always put like exclamation, "What's this? Oh my gosh, look what I found!" And then you just kind of throw in like a joke, or like show them something cool, but you can't say what's this and then have nothing going on in the video. And that's why people don't stick around at people's channels.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Now we are starting to run out of time here, but I did want to end off with, do you have any specific goals in mind for the near future with your reptiles or content creation?
Yep. um, I would say I have two main goals. My first main goal is, I'm going to start like a small reptile business where I plan to like make like little custom enclosures with one of my friends, sell those, and then also start breeding frill dragons, and like uh, hopefully one day diamondback terrapins if they make it legal. But like just a select few reptiles that I really like that I want to breed. I want to breed frill dragons and sell those, and then eventually, if my business continues to grow, I would like to take a percentage of every purchase and then like start putting it towards animal conservation, or just donating it to groups and stuff like that. and eventually I hope to grow enough where I can really help out on a large scale versus like a small scale. But small amounts always help a little bit.
100% agree. I actually plan on doing something very similar as well. Um, it's because that's at the end of the day, it's the guys that we have here behind us, they're ambassadors, and we need to really think about where they come from, and we need to protect those places from human encroachment. Um, where people are just the worst when it
Yeah.
comes to the earth, unfortunately. But all we can do is try our best to mitigate everything and try to help them out as much as we can. So,
Yep.
but
Um,
anyways,
I was
uh,
gonna say, do I have time to ask you a couple of questions?
yeah, sure, sure.
All right. First, I want to know. Well, actually, I want to know your bucket list reptile.
Oh, so I pretty much already got my bucket list reptiles. Because I figured, it's uh, time is going to pass whether I get them now or later, and they really get their size later. So I might as well get them now. That was my thought process. So my
Gotcha.
bucket list reptiles were the Aldabras, which I got two now that are growing
Nice.
like weeds. Um, really cool tortoises. Absolutely crazy to me that I even have them.
Yeah.
So those two and the black throat. A lot of people get Ackies or something like that, something smaller for their first, but I'm like, I don't really want a bunch of monitors. I just want like the one species I am actually interested in the most.
Yeah.
And so I just went for it. I know that probably seems kind of crazy to most people, but um,
Yeah. But I think it's cool because I like part of the reason I chose a Quince monitor is just kind of a similar. I mean, I think Ackies are cool and stuff, but I'm like, I want to get something that I'm really going to enjoy, not just something
yeah,
that everyone always has. I love bearded dragons, but I don't want to. I don't see myself getting a bearded dragon. I want to get something that's like kind of unique to me at least. And yeah, that black throat is amazing. I think that's a
thank
good
you.
choice. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and I might have just gotten lucky, honestly, but he's been really good, man. He's test bitten me about twice, but it's not hard or anything. You could tell
Just
he's
a
just
little
testing.
tiny pressure, right?
Yeah, like he's not chomping down or anything like that.
The cool thing about monitors is from talking to my friends who've had way more experience is when they're small, they always feel threatened, but when they get bigger, they don't feel threatened as much. So they're way less likely to be aggressive and bite. They're like, oh, I run this place and you're just the guy who feeds me. I don't need to
Yeah,
attack
exactly. Yeah, and I will say I am nervous for when I move him into his like 20 by 20 outdoor walk-in enclosure I plan on building him.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to put him in like a box and then transfer him that way because I'm afraid if I just carry him outside for the first time,
Yeah.
he might flip out because of that different spectrum of light.
Yeah. He might. Yeah. That's a good idea.
So I'm trying to like plan everything out carefully. And then once I get him in there, I'm probably just going to leave him alone for 24 hours, let
Yeah.
him settle. And then I might start having to work with him again. We'll see how it goes. Because it
Yeah.
seems like sometimes it drastically affects them and sometimes it barely affects them.
Yeah.
So, but do you have any other questions?
Yeah. One more. My last question. Um, I love tortoises. I always have.
Mm-hmm.
They're obviously like an iconic reptile. What draws you to like what tortoises are your thing? I would say you like frilled dragons are kind of my thing. Tortoises are your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why? I want to know why.
So with tortoises, I mean, like most reptiles, they're quiet. So it's not like a bird squawking in the corner of the room constantly.
Yeah.
Uh, they're fairly easy to maintain, honestly. Like the ones I have outdoors. Really, I keep all my tortoises outdoors, other than like little tiny hatchlings. Um, it's just a lot easier, a lot more hands off. It's kind of like checking on them every other day
Yeah.
kind of situation. And the way I've planted their outdoor enclosures is I make it large enough and I fill it up with vegetation, enough vegetation to where it's pretty much self-sustaining for the most part.
Yeah.
So I'm barely involved, just kind of checking up on them, checking the security cameras, making sure no one's flipped over or anything like that. The only thing I have to work on is getting some kind of watering system for their water bowls because I do still have to go out there manually fill them up with the hose. Probably going to use some kind of PVC pipe thing and run it underground, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really the main thing is they're very peaceful. You don't have to worry about them trying to bite you or go after you. They're basically like cows, really. They just
Yeah.
kind of graze all day. Very low key. Just kind of matches my personality. I just
Yeah.
kind of hang back, quiet.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, that's really it. And just if I had to work with one type of reptile, it would definitely be tortoises, hands down. As much as I love Cyrax,
Yeah.
if I had to pick one, it would be tortoises.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So, but thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate this.
Oh,
This
thanks
was a
for
good
having me.
one.
I had a great time. Hope we can do this again. You got to come. You got to come over once my reptile room is done and check it out. Make a video about it or something.
Oh, you can count on it, brother.
Yeah.